Cold rain poured over 6th Avenue as she stepped out of the taxi. Her linen dress clung damply to her legs. Strands of messy hair stuck gently to her forehead. No one knew her name. No one was waiting. Amira Vale, 27 years old, a woman carrying a small suitcase and an old, unspoken promise. She stood before Vinemont Tower, a glass building of 42 floors, where auditions were being held for a global campaign titled The Spirit of Ardell, the relaunch of a luxury perfume brand that had disappeared for 15 years. Inside the tower, the penthouse shimmered in warm golden light, reflecting off sapphire stones. The sound of high heels clicking in perfect rhythm like clockwork. Familiar faces from the world of fame and fashion filled the space cover models, award-winning actresses, influencers with millions of followers. And then Amira walked in. The room was crowded, yet the moment she entered, time seemed to pause. Women in haute couture dresses turned their heads. Stylists craned their necks. Someone whispered loud enough for everyone to hear, "Oh God, did she walk into the wrong floor?" Amira's dress was a hand-stitched cotton piece in ash grey, unbranded, creased slightly at the hips. Her shoes were soft brown leather, the heels worn down. No designer bag, no jewelry, no lipstick, only a small wooden flute hanging by her side, the one thing that made her stand out even more oddly among the sparkling crowd. A platinum blonde nearby chuckled openly. What is she supposed to be? A street performer auditioning for a billion-dollar campaign? Far across the room, Roland Miles, the casting director, was reviewing portfolios. Once a Cannes film director, he was known for his ruthless standards. "I don't look for beauty, I look for soul." A young assistant leaned in and whispered something in his ear. Roland looked up, frowning. Amira Vale. No headshot, no acting resume, no social media. Sent directly from executive board level. Yes, Amira Vale was not from the industry. She was an anonymous figure within an international charity network, personally invited by the chairman of Ardell to audition. But no one in the room knew that, to them, she was just a shadow. Amira said nothing as she passed through the glass threshold, where laughter echoed sharp as needles dipped in perfume. At the long central table, contestants sipped espresso served by white-suited staff. Amira, what? She didn't drink, didn't ask. She simply found a seat in the farthest corner and sat down. No one approached her. No one asked her name. No one wanted to be seen with someone who looked like she'd just stepped off a subway platform. Among the most anticipated faces that day was Lyra Westford, 29 years old, the former face of Ardell during its golden age. Her platinum hair was perfectly waved, her lips a sharp crimson, her gaze icy. She was the first to openly sneer when Amira entered. "Sit near her and kiss your elegance points goodbye." Lyra smirked at her group. "What is this? Auditions for peasant extras?" Laughter rippled through the room. An influencer stepped forward, her open-back silk gown gleaming like glass. She leaned toward Lyra, pretending to whisper but loud enough for everyone to hear. Maybe the director invited her to audition for, I don't know, Ardell's Spirit of Poverty. The campaign is called The Spirit of Ardell. Laughter again. Amira didn't react. She quietly opened a small wooden box from her bag, pulling out a well-worn bamboo flute, and gently wiped it with a cloth. A young assistant blinked. "What is that?" Amira looked up, her hazel eyes meeting his puzzled gaze. "It's my voice," she said softly. "I don't need a microphone." The answer left him speechless. He turned to walk away, but kept glancing back at her, as if trying to place what world she had come from. A voice called out, "Number 17, Lyra Westford." "Please prepare." Lyra stood, smoothing her waistline with the grace of a coronation ritual. Before entering the casting room, she passed by Amira, casting a look as sharp as a dagger, you know. Ardell used to be an icon. They'll never choose someone who doesn't understand what nobility means. Amira remained still, not a word. Lyra scoffed and disappeared through the casting door. It closed behind her, and no one in that room knew that when it opened again, everything would change. Inside the audition room, Lyra stood beneath the stark white lights, surrounded by carefully selected props, an antique piano, a porcelain teapot, a small vial of oud oil, and a blackwood flute resting on its stand. Roland Miles stood behind the table, arms folded, his thick eyebrows furrowed as he watched. He tilted his head slightly and spoke slowly. "Show me nobility. No spotlight. No lines. Just let me see your soul." Lyra gave a graceful smile, offered a polite bow, and stepped toward the wooden table where an old edition of Ardell perfume stood. She performed a simple scene, a noble woman lost in childhood memories. Her gestures were elegant but mechanical. Every step, every brush of hair, every tear seemed rehearsed from a textbook of classical acting. Yet Roland didn't blink. His gaze stayed cold, glass-like. When Lyra finished, she smiled and waited. Silence. Beautiful, but hollow, Roland finally said. "Like a bottle long emptied of its scent," he added, pointing to the vintage perfume. Lyra's face went pale. "I was Ardell's brand ambassador 10 years ago. You are the most stunning facade I've ever seen." Roland nodded. "But I'm not looking for a statue." Contestant 18 was called, then 19, then Amira. No one cared. No one noticed. She stood unhurried, unrushed. Under the golden light, her faded grey dress no longer looked out of place. It felt like a memory, walking in from a time before brands existed. When Amira entered the room, Roland didn't look up at first. Name? Amira Vale. Profession? I don't have one. I live. Roland raised an eyebrow, then glanced at her resume. Blank, except for one line. Graduate of Helsinki Folk Performance Institute, independent program. Founding member of a music initiative for homeless children. He gave a quiet nod and motioned with his hand. Amira walked toward the instrument stand. She bypassed the piano, ignored the tea set. Instead, she retrieved a wooden flute from a linen pouch. No one spoke. Then she played. A warm, earthy tone filled the room. It didn't soar like a violin, nor flow like a guzheng. It was the sound of wind weaving through rooftops on a cold night. The piece was Scarborough Fair, an ancient melody, raw and sorrowful, yet clear as spring water. Roland said nothing. His eyes widened. When the last note dissolved into air, he asked, "Who taught you?" "A blind man," she replied, "but he heard more clearly than anyone I've ever met." Roland turned back to her file, then paused. Amira Vale, real name Amira Ardell. Ardell Thorpe, the sole heir to the corporation, adopted daughter of the founder, presumed missing after a humanitarian mission in Africa 5 years ago. Roland rose to his feet, visibly stunned. "Why didn't you say anything? Why come here like a nobody?" "Because if I came to prove I was noble, I would have failed the moment I walked in. I came to see if a nameless soul, humble and unpolished, could still be heard in a room built on glamour." When Amira stepped out, the lobby fell into silence. No one knew why Roland summoned her into a private conference room. An hour later, the media exploded. A leaked video, Amira playing the flute, no introduction, no embellishments, yet the melody shattered the internet. Hashtags appeared. Hashtag the real spirit. Hashtag not branded but born. Hashtag Amira Ardell. Lyra stood frozen. Brooke screamed at her assistant. Major stars left the building mid-audition, and Amira, she sat on the back steps of the building, quietly eating a cold sandwich she'd packed that morning, like nothing had happened. A week later, the official campaign was announced. Media speculated a dozen names, but then the first oversized billboard appeared in Paris, a girl in a linen dress, holding a flute, standing before a forest, not a trace of makeup, no dramatic lighting, just morning mist, and a gaze that needed no words. Text beneath the image: "We don't choose appearances, we choose the voice within." Ardell, the fragrance of the soul. At the global press conference, Lyra wasn't invited. Brooke didn't show. Amira took the stage. No flowers, no background music, just a handwritten letter placed gently on the podium. Before she stepped back, an assistant opened it and read aloud, "I did not come here to prove my worth. I came to remind everyone, worth needs no proof. It exists if you're quiet enough to hear it." AV. After the campaign, Amira declined every contract offer. She didn't sell a personal brand. She returned to a small village in Romania, where she ran flute classes for orphaned children. Every month, someone still came to visit: directors, designers, photographers. All of them left empty-handed, but with something changed in their eyes. A year later, at the International Awards for Most Inspirational Campaign in Advertising, the Spirit of Ardell won top honors. No one came to accept the award. Only a video played: the girl in the grey dress, a flute, a gentle smile, eyes meeting the camera. No slogan, no name, no introduction, and a final line: "True nobility is when you need no recognition, yet are remembered forever." After the casting session, rumors of the nameless girl quickly spread through the highest floors of the Ardell Corporation. Powerful figures from marketing and PR to shareholders began raising questions. Who is she? Is she part of some new PR stunt? If this fails, will it destroy Ardell's reputation? Esther Lemaire, the sharp-witted communications director in her 50s, demanded a meeting with Amira. They met at a small cafe tucked away in the Marais district of Paris, where warm, dim light softened Amira's face. Esther looked deeply into the young woman's eyes and asked, "Do you know how long it took Ardell to build its image of nobility?" Amira simply smiled. "I didn't come to destroy it. I came to remind people why it was built in the first place." The answer made Esther, who had witnessed countless hollow ad campaigns, feel something she hadn't in years: trust. In a mahogany-paneled boardroom on the 40 Honest floor, a tense internal meeting was underway. On one side were the executives demanding that Amira be replaced by a major celebrity. On the other, fewer in number, stood Roland and a handful of founding members who believed, "This is our only chance to bring Ardell back to its true soul." As the debate reached a fever pitch, Roland spoke a single sentence: "If you're afraid of losing those who only buy the label, then remember, we lost our soul a long time ago." The meeting adjourned. No vote was taken. Roland staked his entire 30-year career on a single gamble: Amira. Before the official filming of the ad campaign, Amira made an unusual request. The entire crew would temporarily leave the studio. The shoot would take place at dawn, in a small forest. No script, no artificial lighting. Many protested, but Roland agreed. The night before filming, Amira sat by a campfire with local children, teaching them how to play the flute. Crew members stood quietly at the edge, watching the firelight flicker in her eyes, listening to the hesitant, clumsy but sincere melodies filling the night. No scripted dialogue could rival that moment. Meanwhile, Lyra Westford, the star once hailed as Ardell's muse, wrestled with her rage. She hired a private PR team to spread rumors that Amira was merely a pity pawn, but the public wasn't swayed. For the first time in years, people witnessed a campaign that didn't prey on greed or envy, but awakened something pure within them. Alone in her cold, luxurious penthouse, Lyra finally faced the truth. She had traded her soul for a flash of fleeting fame. Amira refused offers to become an exclusive brand ambassador, as many labels proposed. Instead, she insisted Ardell allocate 30% of the campaign's profits to create a fund, the Whisper Fund, supporting global art education for homeless children. And then she disappeared from every glamorous event. In the years that followed, she existed only through whispered mentions, grainy photos captured in secret. Amira teaching in a crumbling monastery in Transylvania, Amira playing the flute at a small festival in Morocco, Amira, hair tousled, laughing with orphans by an empty beach. 10 years later, at Ardell's 100th anniversary celebration, a special video was played, The Spirit of Ardell, A Decade of Soul. There were no A-list celebrities, no dazzling special effects, only the faces of children from around the world, playing flutes, painting, dancing, and a single closing line. What will you remember in the end? A perfect face, or a soul that touched yours? At the very back of the Paris auditorium, a woman in a worn wool cloak smiled quietly. No one recognized her, but in that moment, she had won, silently, completely.